Welcome to Film and Page. I'm Dominic, and in this video I'm going to be taking a look at The Crystal Shard, Book 1 of the Icewind Dale trilogy, originally published in 1988 by TSR Inc., written by R.A. Salvatore, clocking in at 333 pages, and in this video we'll be taking a look at the paperback edition. So this is my physical copy of The Crystal Shard, Book 1 of the Icewind Dale trilogy. Now, I have to say I love the look of these older Forgotten Realms books. I love the artwork on them, and they look really cool on the bookshelf. And the one thing about Dungeons & Dragons, Forgotten Realms, Dragonlance, all that, their books had some fantastic artwork on the cover. And usually, and I really like this when books include maps. I like having a map in the book that kind of give you a layout of the world you're going to be in. Like, fantastic artwork on the cover. And the artwork to these books, in my opinion, really draw you in. They really make you want to read these books. So that is my physical copy of The Crystal Shard, Book 1 of the Icewind Dale trilogy. So now I'll discuss a little bit about my background with the character of Drizzt. So this is a character I wasn't aware of until probably almost 20 years ago now. I was aware of Forgotten Realms because I would see them in comic book ads and stuff like that, and I didn't play role-playing games when I was a kid, but I knew some older kids that did play role-playing games, so I was a little bit familiar with things like Forgotten Realms, Dragonlance, and role-playing games like that. But the other thing that got me familiar with these kind of things is the books, the novels. I remember a friend of mine, he had the Dragonlance books. He had that first trilogy that came out, and I remember him showing them to me, and I remember just really being drawn to the cover artwork. And that's something about these books that I was always drawn to, is the artwork on the cover. So as I got more into reading in my teens and early 20s and stuff, and in my early 20s, I joined a science fiction book club. Now, up to that point, I had read mostly all just science fiction, but I was getting more and more curious about fantasy, like sword and sorcery. And the only thing that I had read up to that point that was considered fantasy was some Conan books. So I decided to order some books through the science fiction book club that was fantasy, and one of them was The Sea of Swords, and that starred the character of Drizzt. So that was my first introduction to the character, was that novel. And I read that novel 19 years ago now. And I remember I thought the novel was okay, but I thought the writing was a little bit on the boring side, or not boring, but I don't know. I really can't explain it, but it just wasn't enough for me to seek out more of the books. So now fast forward 19 years later, I had a friend of mine give me some of the Forgotten Realms books, and one of them was The Crystal Shard. So I decided to give R.A. Salvatore another chance with this character of Drizzt. Now, this would actually be my third time giving the writer R.A. Salvatore a chance, because after I had read that book, Sea of Swords, and the second book I read that he had wrote was actually Vector Prime, a Star Wars book. And that book, I'll be honest, I didn't really care for that one either. So this is my third attempt at getting into the writing of R.A. Salvatore. So that's my background with the character of Drizzt. So a little bit about the plot of this book. So this book is, now there's two ways you could read the series of Drizzt books by R.A. Salvatore. You could either go publication order or the actual chronological order of the series as it's presented in universe kind of deal. Because this book is actually the first printed book, or the first appearance of Drizzt and these other characters in print form, but it's not the first story as far as storyline goes, if that makes any sense. But this does a good job of setting up the world of Icewind Dale and the 10 towns and the people who inhabit those 10 towns. So the 10 towns is basically exactly as described. It's 10 towns, and it's up in this snowy area, northern area called Icewind Dale, and they've just had a big battle with these barbarians, and they almost got destroyed, but they got the heads up with the help of this elf Drizzt, who is a drow He's a dark elf, and he's kind of different from his own kind because he's basically a good guy where most of his race are bad guys, I guess, to break it down in simple terms. And so as this all goes on with this battle with the barbarians, there is a character called Akar Kessel, and he's basically a bumbling apprentice to a wizard, and he actually ends up, I do believe, killing his master, and he tries to summon demons and stuff, and he ends up getting betrayed by these guys, but he ends up getting abandoned and left for dead way up in the northern part of this world, where he stumbles upon a crystal shard that gives him a lot of power and turns him into an evil wizard. And now he's forming this army of orcs and goblins and all these horrible creatures, and he summons this demon and all this stuff, and he's going to invade and become the conqueror of the 10 towns of Icewind Dale, and it's up to Drizzt and his party to stop him. And some of the characters in this book, you have, of course, the evil wizard is the main antagonist, Akar Kessel. You have Drizzt himself, and his panther, Guinevere, and then you have Wolfgar the Barbarian, and I believe it's Brunor the Dwarf, and Regis the Halfling. And then there's a female character in there, Canterbury, as well. So that rounds out all the characters. And the thing about this book so far, and I've only read 2, but they're very straightforward, simple adventure stories. That's the way these books are written. So some of the stuff I liked about this book is I really like the world of Forgotten Realms. Like, I find the world of Icewind Dale, that territory. Now, in the world of Forgotten Realms, this is just one area. There's more to this world than just Icewind Dale. But this is the area that I'm most familiar with, is the Icewind Dale area. And from reading these 2 books, I've always liked the world, or the area, the idea of Icewind Dale. And I liked all the characters. I thought they were very good. And I like the character of Drizzt. I think he's a very good fantasy character. Visually, he looks cool, the way I visualize him in my head and stuff like that. And he has pretty good supporting characters, kind of reminiscent of Lord of the Rings with the dwarf guy, Renor. And the barbarian guy, Wolfgar, is another interesting character. He has a hammer. It's kind of like Thor's hammer. It's magic. He can throw it, hit stuff, and it'll come back to him on his own, stuff like that. So it's a pretty good cast of characters. The other thing I really like about these books, again, is I love the cover artwork on these editions, especially the older ones with those really nice painted covers. I just love that. Now, some of the things that I didn't like about this book. So right off the bat, the biggest thing about these books for me is the writing. I find R.A. Salvatore's writing drag, and it doesn't keep my interest much. I don't know what it is about his writing, but yeah, it just feels very generic. That's the only way I can put it. And I really had to push to get through this book. Like, the middle part really dragged, and it's not a long book. It's only 333 pages, but it did drag quite a bit, and it just feels like very kind of generic, the writing or something. I don't know. I would like to read these same characters written by someone else in this world, written by S.D. Perry or someone like that, just to see what it would be like, or Steve Perry, or any one of these other like tie-in novel authors, someone that isn't R.A. Salvatore. And it's not just because it's a fantasy book, because he's done a Star Wars one, Vector Prime, and that one I was not impressed with either. It would probably be like, if I made a top 5 Star Wars books, like that book Vector Prime would be on it, to be honest. So that is the biggest hang up I have with these books. And after I read this one, I was like, do I want to keep going with R.A. Salvatore and these Drizzt books? But I do really like the character. And I decided, I'm going to give it a couple more books, because maybe I just hit 2 that were kind of duds or something. I'm not sure. But a lot of people do like this character and like this series of books. It's very popular. So I think I'm going to stick through it and at least finish off this trilogy, the Icewind Dale trilogy, because I do like the world. I really do like the characters. I think it's a very interesting fantasy setting, a very well thought out one. And maybe the next one will be better. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one. I'd like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you all in helping this channel grow. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded.